AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn and I hire wrong. So our orders get all backed up. We're drowning in paperwork. Then actually drowning, Carol is fighting off sharks with a stapler and pirates are pillaging the office copier and... Then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant goes beyond the resume, using unique insights to deliver a smarter shortlist. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Every sip of Coca-Cola brings you closer to the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 26. Because nothing compares to the joy. So grab a Coke and drink in the FIFA World Cup 26. No purchase necessary. 13 plus in 50 U.S. states and D.C. with a web-enabled device. Ends March 1st with 8 entry periods. Rules at cokeurl.com/soccerrules.
Good morning, Crust. It's a great day to be a bread brother.
Ugh, mornings are not my jam. Or jelly.
Oh, come on. Stop loafing around.
I just woke up feeling hollow inside.
Psst, just grab one of the new Morning Uncrustables sandwiches, like Bright-Eyed Berry or Up an Apple, filled with 12 grams of protein and tons of deliciousness. Crust, what are you eating?
It's just granola, not even yogurt.
No crust, no fuss. Uncrust your mornings.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some from my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop up to 40% off site-wide, plus an extra 10% off every order and a free professional measure happening right now at Blinds.com.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode number 791 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. We are coming to you about an hour after a absolute beatdown in the winter wonderland that is Cameron Indoor Stadium. 83-52, the final score, Duke over Louisville. I'm Donald. I'm here to talk about it. He's Jason. He's also here to talk about it. We were supposed to be talking about this together at the game. I'm glad the game, Jason, got off safely.
Yes.
And I will say this, they had this program where people who obviously couldn't make it due to the snowstorm that has affected 2/3 of the country, they were allowing people to trade in their tickets and they were going to give them to students. So I just want to start off, bring you in, Jason, by saying, students, well damn done. That was a loud crowd on TV. It translated well. You guys did a great, great job.
And they had a lot to cheer about, Donald. I mean,
yes,
the highlights,
they did.
The highlights from this game are plentiful. God, it was a contest that, it was funny. I was texting you and Scott Rich. We have our special DBR text chain. And I was saying, oh my God, the inbox, the DBR podcast at gmail.com inbox, just like the second the final horn sounded, it exploded with headlines. We must have had 30 plus headlines within 5 to 10 minutes of the game ending because there's so much material.
Yes, the most important thing, Duke 19-1 on the season, moves to 8-0 in the ACC, and again, Louisville was up this game 25-24 with 4:30 left in the first half. Duke won this game by 31 points, so that just tells you how great a turnaround. It wasn't even a turnaround. We'll talk about the little rut that they had in the first half, but short of that, this was an all-out demolition by Duke. Let's get to the headlines because, as Jason mentioned, we got quite a bit of them, and the ones that came in fast and furious were also really good. I'm going to start with Justin Bystrack. Justin Bystrack wrote, January 6th, DMP. January 26th, MIA. Duke D makes Mikael Brown disappear in dominant display.
Yeah, Justin, by the way, added that he loves how confident Nick Hemenia, Silent K, has become. And that's one of the stories of this game. But I love that headline by Justin. I got one from Steve Van Dude. Steve said, heavyweight versus featherweight as Duke plucks the Cardinals. I like that one.
Jacob Smith wrote, Duke destroys ice cold cards and turns Louisville into Blueyville. I just love that one because I just love that one. That one was great.
Mark Slavic, this is really good. This would be even better if the game had been played at the KFC Yum Center. It was in Cameron, but still, this works, Mark. Mark said, KFC, Kamenia Fried Cardinals.
Yes. I almost had that one if I didn't want to mispronounce Nick's name, but it works with the KFC.
I know. I had to mispronounce it a little bit. I know it's Kamenia, but it works with the KFC. I'm going to give him a pass.
It's still cool on that one. Jim Baumgartner. Normally, Jason, I don't really like the long ones. I like the shorter, truncated headlines.
Oh, but this is so good. Great. This is so good. Great. Give it to him, people.
So, okay, here it is. Jim Baumgartner wrote, Duke outplays, outshoots, out-rebounds, out-hustles, out-passes, out-dunks, out-defends, overwhelms, deflates, destroys, decimates, dominates. Oh, and did I say defeats Louisville?
Oh, my God. That is so good by Jim Baumgartner. My last one, and by the way, I just want to let everyone know, there were so many good headlines. You had to really bring it tonight. So if we didn't read yours, there's no shame in that. It was just a really, really tough list to make. So
you also had to have the intuition, Jason, that we were going to record like 45 minutes after the game.
Exactly. My last one comes from Chris Emmershine. Chris is one of our best headline writers. He writes to us all the time. He said, not a snow out, but a blowout. Perfect for today's weather and for today's result.
And related to that, Ken Swanner, my last one, Ken Swanner wrote, Cardinals fly through snow and ice only to get caught in an avalanche at Duke. And Jason, I think that's a great way to transition into the good. I'm going to start with this. Our defense. When you hold the number 20 team in the country to 52 points on 29.6% from the floor, 32% from three, and let me add within that Louisville went 5 for 20 from 2 points. 25% from two is an incredible, astounding stat for a team that, again, is number 20 in the country. They held Mikael Brown Jr. to just 7 points on 1 of 13 shooting. And Jason, I think that was what, even when we had the rut in the first half scoring wise, I think throughout the game, what was constant is that, one, Mikael Brown Jr. was not going to get his good looks. And when he even got a good look, it kind of rattled him that he did, so that he missed those. He even had that layup towards the end where it looked like he got to the basket and all of a sudden he realized he was at the basket and just kind of whiffed on the layup. But our defense was tremendous on the night. It really frustrated all of their shooters. We talked about how many threes that Louisville shoots. They took an absorbent amount of threes. I think they took 14 more threes than they did 2-pointers, which is why their shooting percentage was 29.6% and not lower, because, as I mentioned, they went 5 for 20 from two. This is a great defensive display by Duke.
Yeah. Oh, no, they should have kept on shooting threes. They were better. They hit 32% of their threes. They only hit 25% of their twos. They should have kept on shooting three-pointers the whole game. Look, at the end of the first half, Louisville had scored 28 points. And I thought, wow, if we can hold them to 28 points, a total of 56 points, that would be amazing. I was wrong. We held them to 24 points in the second half. I want people to understand, Donald, this wasn't just a dominating performance by a Duke defense against, any old team. We were playing a top 20 club in Louisville. We're playing a team that has one of the 10 best offenses in all of college basketball. This is a Louisville team that was averaging close to 90 points per game coming into this game. I want to repeat that. Everyone needs to understand this. Louisville was averaging close to 90 points per game. They scored 52 against Duke. Louisville has had only 3 games all year where they scored less than 1 point per possession. Point per possession, PPP, is a big stat that the efficiency experts look at. And Louisville's only had 1 game all year where they had less than 1 PPP. I'm sorry, they've only had 3 games all year where they had less than 1. They've only had 3 games where they had less than 1 PPP. Here are those games. When they played us the first time in the KFC Yum Center, they had 0.98 points per possession. They had a nightmare game against Tennessee earlier this year. I think it's the first one that Mikael Brown missed, or maybe the second one. Mikael Brown was not available for it. They scored just 0.9 points per possession. I'm sure that they thought, we'll never have a game that bad again. Tonight, in Cameron, against the Duke defense, Louisville scored 0.8 points per possession. This is a team that routinely gets like 1.2, 1.3 points per possession. I can't stress to you enough how bad it is for Louisville, how good it is for Duke that we held them down like this. It's kind of unprecedented that, Louisville hasn't had a game anywhere close to this bad on offense. And I'm going to go ahead and say some of that was just Louisville was off. I saw Mikael Brown miss some shots like close to the basket that frankly, he was 0 of 6 on 2-point field goals. That's not going to happen for him very often. A lot of it was Duke, but some of it was just an off night. Louisville just, maybe they felt weird because they flew in day up. Usually they fly in day before. They flew in day of the game with all the snow. I don't know. There could be a million different factors going on there, Donald. But the bottom line is we utterly dismantled a top 10 offense in the land, made them look like they didn't know what they were. No, there was a 7-minute stretch in the first half where Louisville didn't score at all. Now, Duke only scored 4 points. So we weren't scoring very much.
That was the right. Is while we weren't scoring a lot from the floor, they were scoring 0 from the floor. So it worked out.
The score was 18-16 for 3 minutes of the game. Like neither team could get off 18-16. But Louisville went almost 7 minutes without scoring in the middle of the first half. It was shocking, and I don't know which was more impressive. I guess the defense is more impressive than the way we dominated them on the inside. But dude, we crushed this team, a good rebounding team. We crushed them on the boards. Let's get to that now.
Well, I mean, the boards was one thing, but before we get to that, you mentioned kind of the dominance inside the paint, right? We outscored them 42-10 in the paint. Let me repeat that stat, right? 5 for 20 from 2. 5 times 2 equals 10. There are your paint points. That's all they were able to get was a couple from there was a couple of behind, like under the basket layups that were kind of off of like broken drives. And I think they only had 1 or 2 plays that were like traditional plays that ended with somebody taking a shot at the rim and making it. Other than that, they were not able to get anything done in the paint. We really took care of the glass. We took care of the paint. And every time they came in, it just felt like there was 3 Duke players, maybe 4 Duke players, all amongst them where they couldn't do anything.
Dude, 42-10 points in the paint. That can't be real.
We just did it. Yes, we just did it 2 days ago again. So
is that a typo?
Real.
That has to be a typo. 42-10. Duke wins the rebounding battle here. Get ready for the number 47-26. We came close. Remember against Wake Forest the other day, we had a 50-50 split. 50-50 offensive rebounds, defense. We weren't quite there. We had 15 offensive rebounds. Louisville had 17 defensive rebounds. So we came close. But oh my goodness. We win second chance points 16-5. It was Duke showing their dominance in a way that I didn't think they could against a team as good as Louisville. And I want to talk specifically about the game plan, because I really feel like we attacked Louisville in a very surgical kind of fashion to take advantage of our ability on the inside compared to them. We consistently looked for the mismatch on the floor. We would look for who was guarding Cam and Pat, because sometimes it was Hadley, sometimes it was someone else who just wasn't, whoever Frew, their big man, Sanandra Frew, whoever he was guarding, they would sort of stay away from him a little bit. And they'd go, okay, who is guarding our other big man? And we would just consistently feed that guy, and Louisville had no answer for it. And when you combine the way we were surgically destroying them inside with the way our perimeter defenders, especially Caleb Foster, Dame Sarr, and Nick Hemenia. And we're going to talk more about Nick, but I thought Nick Hemenia had a great game defensively. But the way those guys strangled Louisville's vaunted scoring guards, it was the formula for destruction. It was unbelievably impressive. And if you're the rest of the ACC, Donald, I don't know how you look at a game like this and go, okay, well, we can't stop Duke on the inside one-on-one. Duke's perimeter guards are going to make life a nightmare for our guards. What do we do? What is your game plan? What is your attack? Because I don't know what it is at this point.
I mean, look, in the first half, obviously the idea was to establish Cam Boozer and establish him in the post. We did, right? He was able to get some shots off. He's able to get his rebounds. He really, felt like he controlled the paint. And that was when Frew was on, for the most part, was on Pat. To start the second half, they put Frew on Boozer because Boozer had the hot end. And what did Pat do? He scored the first 10 points for Duke in the second half. So, again, it was just that, like, oh, you want to guard him? Cool, he's going to get his points. Oh, you're switching. That's funny. This guy's still in the game. We're going to switch to him. And even when they were not in the game, there was a couple of times where Frew was just kind of on the floor like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to guard. And his answer was like Dame Sarr, which left Malik Brown open for a couple of putbacks, including that one alley-oop, that tip dunk that he had as well. So, again, it just felt like Louisville was frustrated, and they didn't know how to really make the rotations kind of work around to their advantage. And I think that's why we were able to dominate so well inside.
Look, I think we've reached the point, at least in this game, Cam and Pat are both unstoppable one-on-one in the post. Like, you can't stop them with one player. I've seen enough at this point that if Duke is able to get the ball to either Cam or Pat in the post, like back to the basket, the traditional way that a big man gets the ball down there, if they are one-on-one, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think are there probably, what's his name on Houston? I'm blanking on his name. There's a guy for Houston who's a great Tugler, great defender. I'm trying to think of defenders in the country who maybe would have a chance against Cam or Pat. I'm struggling to come up with them. Maybe you can go one-on-one with someone like that. JoJo Tugler. I don't know. There are very, very, very few players in the country who can one-on-one guard Pat or Cam. So your choice is this: you double or you die. But here's the problem. If you double team them, Cam and Pat are incredible passers and they'll find the open man. It's just, I think the only way you can hope to slow this Duke offensive attack down is to try, maybe front the Duke big men, try and keep them out of the post, make that pass difficult to make in there. But I mean, there was precious little that Louisville could do to stop Duke when we got the ball in the post to Cam or Pat.
And it wasn't just them, right? It was our guys getting to the rack, either getting, again, going for the basket or at least getting fouled. If you look at, we talk about plus minus both positively and negatively on the show. And if you look at the starters, our starters bamboozled Louisville starters. Cam plus 27, Pat plus 26, CFOS plus 24, Slim plus 24, Dame plus 26. And it's not like they all were in double figures of points. That was just how methodical it was, that when those five were on the floor, Louisville had a bad night. And unfortunately for Louisville, those guys played 25, 30 minutes most nights. So they were able to go as long as they needed to until we had a lead that was so big that we emptied the bench. And so I love the fact that this team over the past couple of games, especially even if you go back to the two out west, inside the paint, they said, this is our lane. And I mentioned before that I was not necessarily concerned, but there was a trend of us shooting more threes than 2-pointers. And I know we like to keep the balance, and we're great at, we take the open threes when we can. But the fact that we said we have the best player on earth that plays in college, we have probably the second best big man in the ACC who stands right next to him. Just give him the ball, get out of the way. And if they can't get the shot, as you said, they're elite passers. They're going to find somebody who's open and find people they did.
Yeah, let's talk about those two guys really quick. So Cam barely missed another 10-5-5, 19-10-4 in a game where he had a little bit of foul trouble. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. He had a little bit of foul trouble, and as a result, it limited his minutes a little bit. Not that it mattered all that much, but super efficient Pat. Pat won the Ken Palm MVP in this game. We pay attention to this sometimes. Who's, Ken Pomeroy's computer looks at all your statistics in the game, and he goes, okay, who's the MVP of this game? And I love the fact that Pat got an MVP. He was 5 of 7 on his 2-pointer. He missed a 3-pointer. So he's 5 of 8 overall, 5 of 5 at the free throw line, Pat. I love it, my man. He scores 15 total points on 8 shots. That is a very, very efficient game for Pat. And as a result, he was the MVP in this contest. I thought the other thing I wanted to mention about Pat was I thought he did a really outstanding job of contesting shots in the lane. We talked about Louisville was 5 of 20, 25% on their 2-point field goals. A lot of that was, especially in the first half, was Pat contesting everyone who came close to the rim, and he did it without leaving his man in a way that allowed Louisville to dump off ball. It's one thing to contest Mikal Brown, Ryan Conwell, and such when they come to the basket. It's a whole nother thing to contest them in a way that doesn't allow them to throw lobs or dump offs to your man, giving Louisville an easy bucket, off that kind of feed. I thought that was all the more impressive that Pat was able to do that, that the Duke defense was able to do that, with their rotations and the such. And then that flurry at the start of the second half, that was unreal. The lob that Caleb Foster threw to him, that Pat was surrounded by 3 guys. I was like, where is Caleb throwing this ball out? Who's getting this? And then Pat just threw. I was like, good God. And then right after that, he has that little he
spin move.
A little spin move on Frew where he shot like a little 6-foot hook shot. I was just like, I almost felt sorry for Louisville for a minute there.
I want to talk about you mentioned him earlier. I want to talk about Nick Amenia because not only was he great defensively, I think in the second half he showed up offensively and he was very confident. 14 points, all of them came in the second half. He had 2 rebounds and 1 steal in just 15 minutes of playing time. And it felt like
and Donald on just 6 shots, 14 points on 6 shots. Do you know how hard that is to do?
Yeah. And he had an and one where, and the thing about it, Jason, is he kind of played the Slim role tonight. And I'm not saying that Slim wasn't there, but Nick Amenia, there was that time where he kind of laid the ball in. He got the foul on the and one. I think it was going into a TV timeout. And all he could do was just look at the camera crazies and throw his hands in the air and get them riled up going into the TV timeout. He came back out. They almost had to do the wave to kind of calm them down and say, hey, he's about to shoot these free throws again. But he was a guy that kind of showed he was demonstrative with his play. He was hyping up the crowd where he could, and he was giving them reasons to remain hyped throughout the game. I thought he played excellently. It was one of his best games so far in a Duke uniform, if not his best, because I thought he was able to affect the game on both ends of the floor really, really well.
Yeah, like one of our listeners said, his confidence, you can tell his confidence is way up from where it was a few weeks ago. You mentioned Slim. I do want to mention, I thought Isaiah had a great first half, and what I really loved was the way he was taking the ball to the hole.
To the rack, yeah.
Yeah, he was only 2 of 8 on 3-pointers, but he was 3 of 3 on 2-point field goals, and he was really attacking the rim. He's using his athleticism and his length in ways that I didn't think we were going to see from him this season. I just, the fact that Isaiah is really, because teams are selling out on his 3-pointers because you'd be crazy not to. And for him to have now been able to unleash a drive game is really significant for Duke. We talk all the time. Isaiah is the second scorer on this team. He had a very quiet second half. We just didn't need him to do very much in the second half. But in the first half, he was every bit alongside Cam as the Duke, scoring, the guys who gave us the lead that we then stretched out in the second half. And I just love the way Isaiah's game has evolved before our very eyes over the past several weeks.
I want to get to a couple more players, but before we do that, I want to back out just for a second because I think the one thing that was present in this game, that was present in the second half of the first game against Louisville, but not the first half, was the energy. The energy, again, I mentioned the camera crazy at the top because I thought the energy was palpable from the start. The fact that it's so cold in Durham and again, where you are, where I am, they let the students in 3 hours early. And you and I know that that's taboo. They usually don't. They usually have a system, and that system is like, hey, 90 minutes before, or 2 hours before tip off. That's when you come in. But they let them in early to get them out of the cold. And these guys responded by having the energy palpable throughout the thing, and it flowed to the team. It flowed to everyone. It even flowed to John Shire. There was definitely some times where you saw John Shire like coming into a TV timeout when Louisville had to call one or think about it. He's chest bumping players. He's high fiving them. He's like, I mean, he's again showing the emotion that he knows is necessary to beat a team like that by 31. That's a really tough team. And like I said, before the season, they were slated to be the second best team in the ACC. Now we have a 4-game lead in the standings, and it was because that energy was there. And I'm sure what was talked about in the game in the 48 hours between Wake Forest and tonight, it was, hey, keep the energy going, because they're going to come in here, and sure, there may be logistics and stuff, but they can wear you out with just being energetic and having the intensity and not matching the moment. And he said, these kids are going to be ready. We need to be ready. And I think everybody in the gym, all 93-14, was ready for this moment to say, hey, I know it's a Saturday, Monday double, but they're not going to catch us tired. They're not going to catch us in a trap. We're going to come out firing. And I thought that led to the good start. I think, again, the defense was there, and you could see in every facet of the game, we were present, and we were really giving it, and we were, as Jim Bobgarner said, we were out working, out hustling, out contending, out rebounding, out everything Louisville. And I think that was why this game turned on its head so quickly.
Hey, 2 more things I want to say before I'm all done with the good and we can take a little break. The first one is, I know we said earlier about the defense, but I wanted to mention, Cephas and Dame they just made life miserable for 2 of the best guards in the ACC, in Ryan Conwell and Mikal Brown. It was just, you can't speak enough about the importance of the way those guys are playing hounding defense. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, a little shout out to the team and to the coaching staff. At the end of the first half, we got the ball with about 50 seconds left. And I said to myself, I'm like, this is an ideal spot for Duke to do a 2-for-1. There's right amount of time. You need to get off a shot with about 35, 38, ideally like 39 or 40 seconds left. Because if you do that, if you get a good shot, you get a good shot, and then the other team goes, they have their possession, and then you get one more. It's a 2-for-1. It's classic coaching kind of situation. And Duke handled it perfectly because we brought the ball up. We ended up getting, Slim actually got fouled on a 3. He drained all 3 of the free throws with 39.9. It was like ideal that he got fouled, because it would otherwise, even if he makes it or whatever, it takes time with the ball go through the basket.
Yeah.
But it was just smart awareness of the circumstances and then good execution to get that in the right spot. Now, we didn't capitalize on it because we ended up with the ball in Caden Boozer's hands at the very end with 7-8 seconds left, and he drove down and he couldn't quite get to the rim, and his shot came up short, so we didn't get the extra points, but we had a chance at them. But I just wanted to mention, it's one of those situations where a well-coached team, a smart team, knows exactly what they're doing. They're aware of the clock at all moments, and I really just like that Duke, because it's something as a fan I see all the time. I'm like, oh, this is a 2-for-1, and then the team takes too long. You're like, what are you doing? You're giving away a possession. Possessions are valuable. But Duke did not do that, so I just wanted to mention it. I'm all done with the good, Donald.
Yeah, no, I think I was going to mention how we handled end of clock situations, end of first half. We necessarily need to manage the end of the game, but in the first half I thought was great. And like you said, even though we didn't get the last shot, I think it's important that we had that opportunity, because sometimes those are going to drop. And as you mentioned, that extra possession, that extra just wherewithal to remember how the clock is when you take that first of the 2-and-1, if you get that second one in too, like that's a 6-point swing that you can have regardless of what the other team does with their possession. So I think that was fantastic for them. Again, it just felt like everyone was just on their P's and Q's throughout the entire game, and those details were the difference. Let's take a quick break. It may not be a long bad, but we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the play of the game. And coming up, we're going to give a shout out to the women, because They have been killing it lately. We'll be right back.
Año nuevo, los mismos Extra Value Meals en McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawaii, Alaska y California y con entrega.
Support for this show and the Fans First Sports Network comes from Strong Coffee Company. Elevate your coffee routine with Strong Coffee Company's Black Instant Blend and Lattes. Both feature organic coffee, protein, MCTs, and adaptogens for sustained energy and mental clarity. With quick delivery and exceptional taste, their coffee is a convenient option and a nutritious addition to your daily routine. Experience a healthier, most productive day with Strong Coffee Company. Visit strongcoffeecompany.com and receive 20% off at checkout using promo code FFSN. Again, strongcoffeecompany.com, FFSN.
We are back. We continue our recap of the Louisville win. Again, 83-52, the final score. We've talked a lot about the good. I will preface that in a 31-point game, there's not a lot to be nitpicky upset about. But Jason, what do you got?
We had 12 turnovers. I mean, that's not an ideal number. I mean, I usually like us to be less than 12. It wasn't something that stuck out to me during the game as like oh no, Duke is being really sloppy with the ball. But there were a couple times that I was like, clean that up a little bit here, guys. That wasn't ideal. And then the only other thing I had was I didn't like I like Cameron Boozer, he picked up 2 fouls like back to back pretty quickly. And it meant that Duke had to send him to the bench in the second half. It wasn't, it wasn't like the game was on the line and we desperately needed him. We had a fairly comfortable lead, but a guy as valuable as Cam, you just need him to be extra careful about not picking up silly. And I'm not saying his fouls were silly, but just be careful about that, Cam. There can be games where we need you more. And I don't like Cam having to go. Look, he has to go to the bench and take a break every now and then because he's human. He's not a machine, even though sometimes I think maybe he is. So I just I don't like it when he has to go to the bench for fouls because we need him in there every moment we possibly can.
Jason, I will take offense to the fact that you don't think that he's a machine. We have not seen Ivan Drago bleed yet, so maybe one day we will see that, but that'll hopefully be years beyond his career. Jason, I think the only nitpicky things that I have are, one, I mentioned that rut in the first half, and it wasn't a rut where we were sloppy. It was just a rut where we were missing shots, and fortunately for us, Louisville was also missing shots, so it took them a while to really catch up. As you mentioned, you basically had that 18-16 score for about 3 minutes, and it took them like 6 minutes for them to make it 25-24. But once they took the lead, Louisville had the lead for 30 seconds, and then we settled back in, and then that was that. So again, not something to really nitpick really long over, but it's just more of those things like, we're going to get those ruts. How do you respond to it? I thought we responded beautifully. The second nitpick that I have is funny. It's not a huge cause for concern, but we had one of our lower assist outputs of the year.
I noticed that, yeah.
14 assists and 31 made baskets. Now, the reason why is because we had so many second chance points off of our offense. We didn't get a chance to really get a lot of passes off of them. We got some, but I think, again, in the game where you're trying to move the ball around, I think we did great job of actually passing the ball. We just didn't do a great job on those great pass plays of always hitting it. And that's just something that's going to be there.
Well, I think part of it was a lot of the times our passes were leading to Cam or Pat in the post, and they had to make a move, which they are great at. And it takes a good pass to get them the ball because Louisville was trying desperately keep these guys out of the post. But on plays like that, you don't pick up an assist for the most part because it's
you
not
have to
the
dribble
pass
a few times and take a few seconds to kind of establish themselves as opposed to a quick
and he has to make a move to score, and the move is where the quote unquote assist goes away. So I think that's why our assist total was low. Donald, by the way, I forgot something earlier that I wanted to mention in the good. we had another kill shot. We've been tracking these 10-0 runs. The kill shot spanned halftime. It was a 13-0 run that spanned halftime with about 2.5 minutes left in the first half. Duke led 29-28. We then scored the next 13 points of the game, part of them in the first half, part of them in the second half, part of them, Pat Gongba's run at the start of the second half. But Duke loves those kill shots. So we had another kill shot in this game, and it truly was a kill shot because it was a 1-point game. And then the next time Louisville scored, Duke was already up 14 points.
I mean, we talked about the fact that Pat had a kill shot by himself. He scored the first 10 points for Duke the second half.
Yeah, but Louisville scored in there. Louisville had a score in there at one point.
Yes,
it wasn't.
They scored at the end of that, but yes. Yeah. The last nitpicky thing I had, and this is kind of weird, right? In a game in 2 games that I thought we handled ourselves brilliantly on defense, we only had 1 block in each of those games. And that's something where, and it wasn't for lack of effort. I feel like, as you mentioned, Pat had a lot of times where he squared up on the guy going to the hole. I just don't, maybe that's just how a quirky thing that, in a game this defensively well, you're only going to end up with 1 block. But I like the fact that we were able to kind of, again, control the paint without having to rim protect as well as some teams do.
Well, so what I would argue is that rim protection does not necessarily mean only block shots. Duke protected the rim in this game by contesting, by making it difficult for Louisville to finish off those shots. And also, as we said, I mean, let's be honest, there were a lot of balls that like rattled out, that rolled around the rim and fell out. I mean, it was just one of these games where Louisville just if Louisville had Louisville had a bad luck game. If Louisville had normal luck, I think maybe they make it 10 points closer. I mean, it's still a 20-point win, big. But my bottom line is I thought Duke protected the rim really nicely despite not accumulating block shots.
So with that, let's move to our play of the game. And Jason, I will go first because
dude, if you take my play, I'm going to be pissed off at you.
Well, you already mentioned it earlier. It's with 18:43 to go in the game. The alley-oop to Pat from Caleb Foster, who threw it down with his left hand while fending off a defender. Then they go down to the other end of the floor. Louisville misses on the other end. We get the ball. We go right back down. We get the ball to Pat, and he's able to kind of do this dribble spin move that puts somebody in a blender and lay it in.
It was Frew, yeah.
Frew, I'm sorry, but I hope you had some Downy sheets because you were in a spin cycle. But that one was cool, and I liked the fact that it was part of this 10-0 or not 10-0, but like 8-0 run that Pat had by himself to start the second half. But it was also Pat on both ends because he was able to help on defense on the defensive stand down low. He gets the ball, we go back down. He's able to reward himself with another basket. I thought that was a great little sequence from our boy Pat.
So when Pat had the one-handed slam from Caleb, I wrote down play of the game, and then I changed my mind. So my play of the game was a play where you just said, well, Duke wants this game. We wanted it more than Louisville did. Comes with 13 minutes left. Cameron Boozer had just picked up his 3rd foul, and he comes out of the game, and Mikael Brown Jr. promptly drains his first 3-pointer of the game. Now, look, Duke had a 16-point lead, but I'm going to be honest. I was like, this is a moment. Not that, Louisville was going to, suddenly rush and get back in the game instantly, but I was like, this is a moment. Louisville's best player just nailed a 3. Our best player just sat on the bench with foul trouble. There's a lot of time left in this game. This is a moment. And Duke had a possession where Malik Brown and Caleb Foster both grabbed offensive rebounds that Sananda Frew, whatever, was basically right next to them and basically should have had. He is, a solid 3 inches and 60 pounds heavier than both those guys. And he had position. And our guys said, no, we're taking it. And Duke got repeated. Huge moment. Duke gets repeated second chances, third chances. And it ends up with Nick Homenia burying a wide open 3-pointer. Pat Kelsey immediately calls timeout. I've never seen a coach light into a player the way he lit into Frew. That was like, that was damn.
I've seen Izzo light up somebody like that, but Michigan State is known for rebounding. So when you don't rebound, that's just a grade A, straight to the principal's office. But a couple of people wrote in about that particular play. I thought it was great because you mentioned just the determination of trying to get something out of that possession. And not only was Cam on the bench, Pat was also on the bench at that moment.
Right, exactly.
So our two best big men on the bench, and you get offensive rebounds from Malik Brown, from Caleb Foster. You have Caden Boozer missing a shot, but then getting the ball and then passing it off to Nick Kamenia, who's just in the corner, and he says, night, night. Loved that play from those guys. And, we'll have a few days off before we get back at it this weekend. Hopefully the snow will have cleared by then, but they traveled to Blacksburg this weekend. So that'll be a good one. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Jason, before we close out, they are not the only our men's basketball team is not the only team that's been killing it lately. Just want to make a note. This is something that we've been trying to do. We actually were going to talk about this last week, and then Duke sued Darien Mintza, so we had to, kind of put this on the back burner. But thankfully for us, the Duke women's basketball team said, that's cool, we'll just keep winning. They've won 11 straight so far. Remember, beginning of the season, they had one of the toughest schedules in the country, just like the men did. And they were struggling quite a bit with that. They have not lost since December 4th when they lost to LSU in the ACC SEC Challenge. They're 14-6. They're 9-0 in the ACC. The only other team on the women's side that is undefeated is Louisville, who they will see in a couple of weeks. Bart Torvik does a women's ranking as well. They are 7th in Bart Torvik. They are 16th in the net, and it just doesn't feel like they're going to stop anytime soon. And if you're watching this, and Jason, I know you were in Africa, but we keep tabs on all these games. Hats off to the Duke women because they have been absolutely lighting it up. Some of the things that they were not doing well in November that were leading to some offensive ruts, they've kind of cleaned those up, and it just feels like the guards have been doing well. This is without Emily Skinner, who was the heralded freshman. She hasn't been playing as much. I think there was an injury, and maybe there's talk of redshirt. We haven't heard anything about what's going on there, but everyone on the floor has just been lighting it up. They have been beating everybody in what is, again, the best conference on the women's side in college basketball. And for them to be 9-0 and just basically kind of barrel shooting towards a date with Louisville in a couple of weeks, it's incredible how they've kind of managed to learn those lessons in November to start killing it here in January.
Well, and the book on Duke over the years, book on Kara Lawson's teams is they play great defense and they struggle somewhat on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Donald, I want to give you some scores that they've had.
Yeah, give me the scores because they've been fun.
We beat Boston College 100-49. We beat Notre Dame, a good Notre Dame, a ranked Notre Dame team, 82-68.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the past week, we beat Georgia Tech 93-46. 93-46? That's nothing. We then beat Pittsburgh 95-41. I'm going to repeat that one. 95-41? Are you kidding me? This Duke team is suddenly, they still play great defense. I mean, they held Pitt to 41. They held Georgia Tech to 46. They held Boston College to 49. They play great defense, but they're scoring 90, 100 points. I mean, if you haven't checked out what the Duke women are doing lately, woo, Polly bar the door, they are just beating the ever-loving out of a lot of teams.
So they go to Miami this week on Thursday. They then come back home, and I believe on Sunday they play Wake Forest. And then on February 5th, next Thursday, is that game at the Yum Center against Louisville. That is going to be the game that, again, kind of shapes who takes control of the ACC, or at least the road to the 1 seed in the ACC women's tournament. But again, loving what we're seeing for them. And again, especially after challenging themselves by loading up with the non-conference schedule that they did. It would have been easy to throw in the towel after struggling through that slate, but they have turned it around. They have learned from those lumps, and they are now starting to take out their lessons on the rest of the ACC. I love the fact that if you look at, both the men's and the women's side of things, only Duke has not lost in the ACC between their men and their women. We would love. And by the way,
we should shout out Toby Fournier, who's been the one leading the attack. She's averaging almost 18 points per game, almost 8 rebounds per game. and 2.2 blocks per game. She's been the star for this team so far.
It's been amazing to watch. I hope they can keep it going. I hope our men can keep it going as well. Jason, we will be back a little bit later this week. We got more basketball to preview. Maybe we'll hear something from Durham Superior Court about a little case that everybody has their eye on the football side. But until then, he's Jason. I'm Donald. Crazies, once again, great job. Keep bringing the noise. This noise is melody. It's the Duke Band. They're playing us out, and they're taking us home.